Hey, how's it going today, guys? Welcome to day number 5 of the 1,000 Words for 1,000 Days podcast, where I write 1,000 words a day for 1,000 days for no real reason at all. My name is Nick Sands, and I am clinically depressed. Have you ever read the 1844 banger, The Count of Monte Cristo? If you haven't, I wouldn't. It's a tough read, and there are a couple of movie adaptations that are at least as good, and I'll probably catch some flack for saying that, but honestly, I mean, if you reading books that are more than 100 years old is too difficult to make it worth it, frankly. I'm about to drop some spoilers on you, so if you don't want to know the story and you don't want to know how the twist is revealed at the end, then maybe you should click onto another video and then come back to this one later. The Count of Monte Cristo is about a dude named Edmond Dantes who gets absolutely fucked by someone he considers a close friend, and he's sent to prison, presumably to die. This isn't one of the nice cushy prisons that we see today. This place makes Rikers look like La Quinta. It's a real shithole. It's big and cold, and they probably torture you. Pretty sure it's on an island, presumably surrounded by sharks that bite off your dick if you fall in the water. Long story short, place sucks. Edmund spends 6 years in a cell in solitary confinement, and finally, after 6 years, decides it's time to, I can't say that or the algorithm will get me. I mean, granted, I'm only getting like 6 views per video anyways, but still, I don't want to risk it. He decides he's going to finish himself off via starvation, and he stops eating. While on his deathbed, a fellow prisoner ends up in his cell and convinces him to not give up the ghost just yet, and promises to teach him everything he knows. Edmund then spends every day of the next few years being taught by his fellow prisoner everything from foreign languages to math to science. I'm assuming he also teaches him how to love, and Dante must be one hell of a pupil because his teacher gives him the secret location of an island full of buried treasure. You don't get that kind of information if Edmond Dantes gave the sloppiest toppy to get privy to that information, I'm sure. Eventually, his teacher bites it. He dies. He doesn't bite it. And so 14 years after his imprisonment, Dante leaves the prison, and then a few interesting escapades later, goes and finds the treasure on the island of Monte Cristo. This is where the book takes a dark turn. Not content with just being unbelievably rich and excellent lover, Dante, who is clearly not suffering from a psychotic break, sets in motion a plot to get revenge on everyone who wronged him. Basically, Dante uses all the information his friend taught him to make himself someone so fucking cool he is able to gain the trust of all of his enemies, and one by one he gets his revenge. And this is what I want to talk to you about today. Not the revenge stuff. You can figure that out on your own. I want to talk about how to be an interesting person. Because as a child, I was fascinated by this. Dante was so fucking sick, his old best friend and his ex-fiancée didn't even recognize him. They were like, that guy looks a shitload like that small-dicked loser Dante, but there's no way it's him because this guy rules and he clearly has a huge dick. That was the kind of energy he was putting out. And so, inside my little boy brain, the question was planted. How do I fool people into thinking I've got a huge dick? The answer, of course, was to be an interesting person. But other than going to jail and finding a gay lover/teacher, how does one become an interesting person? I spent a while pondering this very question and came up with a basic idea that would at least give me some direction in the quest to be as interesting, but much less wealthy than the Count of Monte Cristo. My little prepubescent brain came up with the idea that to be interesting, a person should have interest in hobbies. I came up with the number 3. I don't know how I came up with that number, but to me that made sense. And I swear to God, I've stuck by this my entire life. I still do it today. And I really believe that by doing this, you can at least not be shitty to talk to. And you at least seem like you have something going on, even if you don't. So, these are the 3 areas of study that I believe every person who wants to be an interesting person should follow. One of the things should be a pursuit of some kind of knowledge, whether it's language, literature, science, history, math, philosophy, chess. It should be something that you use your brain for. It should definitely be something you're interested in, but you should plan to set aside some time every day to learn something about it. Most people get stuck, and instead of actually going and learning about it, they just think about how cool it would be to learn about something. and then they never follow through with it. And so you don't want that to happen. And so I've always tried to like stick time aside, even if it's just like a half hour, to just learn something new on a topic I'm interested in every single day. Now, I'm not talking about getting a college level of understanding here. We're talking about having a fairly shallow understanding of a bunch of different topics and maybe a slightly deeper understanding of a few more. The goal is really just to be able to think, and at the very least be able to have a conversation with someone who kind of knows what they're talking about. Like, at least you can ask the right questions. And you want to be able to carry on and talk with someone about something else other than like your job and the weather. The goal is really to be able to engage in a way that is interesting and makes you seem learned, even if you're not learned at all. So the topic isn't really important. You could learn about anything that you find interesting, and you can change it as frequently as you want. The goal is just to keep that like momentum of learning forward into your adulthood, because a lot of people don't keep learning as they grow older, and they stagnate, and and then they die. The goal is to be interesting, not to be a fucking nerd. So there's no real reason to go super deep on anything unless you are just interested in it and you want to. So the next thing an interesting person should have is some kind of a physical pursuit. It can be anything from darts to MMA. In this area, you should really limit yourself to doing one thing for a long period of time. Whether it's lifting or running or baseball, you should pick something you love and that you'll pursue. Sports lends itself to great stories and big personalities. Competition teaches you things about yourself you can't learn otherwise, even if you are just competing against yourself. These two things are fundamental to not being boring. Someone who is not self-aware is generally fucking boring. But people who haven't been challenged, they're fucking boring. Even Plato, the philosophizing Greek wrestler who was known for his thick muscles, agrees with me. Quote, "In order for a man to succeed in life, God provided him with two means, education and physical activity. And if you can't take advice from Plato, who can you take advice from?" This brings us to the last ingredient of a well-rounded, interesting life. Everybody should have one artistic pursuit. This one comes in two parts. You should have some kind of artistic thing that you do. Drawing, painting, photography, pornography, poetry, writing, music, woodworking. There's hundreds of options here, but there are two that are really the biggest return on investment in my opinion, and that's sketching and writing. Right? Pretty much any medium that goes on paper requires the ability to sketch. From paint to wood burning, understanding three-dimensional shapes and how to create them on a two-dimensional surface is a useful skill, even for sculpting, woodworking, metalcraft, etc. Being able to take something from your brain and put it on paper is helpful. Sketching is also cheap and easy to learn, even if you just spend 15 minutes a day on your lunch doing it from life. Also, being able to draw shit absolutely astounds people. If you're like even a mediocre drawer, people are absolutely fucking blown away. It's practically a party trick. Like I said, like 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, draw something still life in front of you. Drawing really does is it forces you to look at something and see it for what's actually there, as opposed to what your brain does, which is to sort of fill in the blanks. Like, have you ever seen a little kid when they draw feet? They draw the feet pointing like this, outward, even though you've never seen someone stand like that in your life, because it would be super fucking weird. They draw them like that because in their mind they know the feet are supposed to be there, and so they're drawing what they know is there as opposed to what they're actually seeing. So being able to perceive something and then know what you perceived and then put it down, it just makes you more aware of the things around you. Anyways, moving on. Being able to write in a descriptive fashion is also extremely useful in so many ways that have nothing to do with the act of writing itself. Any good movie, music video, podcast, book, poem, or good story of any kind starts with words on a page. So learning how to tell a story well will make these endeavors better. Jokes are literally just tiny stories with subversive endings. Telling a story is a universal experience for humans, and the better storyteller you are, the more social currency you can accumulate. You can make yourself more interesting by being able to tell good stories. If you've ever listened to someone who's really good at telling stories, they can take a shitty story and make it really good. Those people are very interesting to hang out with. They're just always entertaining and fun to be around. So the second part of the art thing is that you should be able to look at a piece of art and have some kind of opinion about it. If your opinion is that it sucks, you should be able to explain why. Art, at its very core, is a person trying to send a message. If you don't like the message, that's fine, but you should be able to decipher it at least. Having a stupid opinion like abstract art is easy or modern art is dumb because it doesn't look like the thing it represents makes you not only boring but also makes you look like an idiot. Having nothing to say about a movie other than it was good or bad makes you seem like you weren't paying attention. Art is about expressing humanity. If you can't understand it, it should be a red flag to the people around you. Look at art outside of the Mona Lisa, understand why Austin Powers is a shockingly well-told story that was way ahead of its time. Be able to tell someone why you prefer Wu-Tang over the Rolling Stones. Understand art to the point where you realize the Beatle and Andy Warhol fucking blow. Once you hit that point, that's good enough for social interaction. I personally have followed this 3-piece outline from the time I came up with it. Today I'm learning French, improving my calisthenics, making films, and writing every day. Fucking right here. I don't know if I'm interesting. I'm certainly not the Count of Monte Cristo, but I know at the very least I'm not boring. And that if I need to, I always have something to talk about. So that's day number 5. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will see you guys on day number 6.